I had boyfriends in high school, but when I was 19, I did a gap year and met the woman who's now my wife at the local pub. We were instantly drawn together. Realising that I was bisexual was perhaps an afterthought. Ultimately, I think being in the UK and being away from everything that I knew meant that I was able to explore my identity more freely. When I came back to Australia, it was a bit of a struggle. There were a few questions and acceptance from my family hasn't necessarily been easy. However, the tipping point for my wife being treated as part of the family was us starting our own family. And now we have a beautiful life together. There are a lot of negative stereotypes about bisexual people. For example, that they are greedy, indecisive, promiscuous, and these are not necessarily stereotypes that you want associated with you in general, but in the workplace especially. People often also make assumptions based on your sexuality from the language that you use. You often speak about who you're in a relationship with, not your sexuality, when you're talking to colleagues and peers and clients in the workplace. Early in my career, it was probably easier to let people make assumptions about me. Firstly, that I was heterosexual, but once I became a bit more open about talking about my relationship, that I was a lesbian. However, I think representation matters, and that became more important to me the more I was involved in an LGBT+ network. Therefore, I'm now more vocal about my sexuality. It's a tricky one because for me, being bisexual is perhaps an invisible identity, especially in the workplace. However, I'm always conscious that for others, they might not be in a long-term relationship, and therefore their bisexual identity could be a bit more of a challenge to talk about within the workplace, especially if they kind of fear biphobia from either the heterosexual or even the LGBT+ community. I wrote my university thesis on bisexual and visibility in the law, and I submitted it for the Justice Kirby Award. The Honourable Michael Kirby is a former High Court judge in Australia who's very progressive, openly gay, and my legal idol. I remember being told a few days before that if I won the award, I'd have to make a speech. When I turned up to the ceremony and actually met the Honourable Michael Kirby in person, I was unable to get any words together. So I became very, very nervous about what would happen if I actually won the award. Coincidentally, I did, and I made a speech. I can't remember what I said, but apparently it was great. So that was a very special memory that I have. A challenging period was when I was in a work secondment a few years ago where I didn't feel able to be openly myself due to cultural reasons. I didn't necessarily keep it a secret, but I also didn't openly discuss it or disclose it either. It ultimately took a toll on me and also my wife, who came there with me but was unable to work, so she spent her days at home, and it was very, very challenging for our relationship. While we now have marriage equality in Australia, and at times Australia seems quite progressive, sometimes it's also 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Every time there's an issue, say for example rugby players being required to wear pride jerseys, or whether or not trans women should be allowed to play in female sport, the media discourse on the subject can be quite challenging to listen to, and hurtful and damaging to the LGBT+ community at times. So it makes you realise that marriage equality is probably one step in the right direction, but only 1 step towards actually achieving equality for LGBT+ people. In 2018, I almost reached burnout and walked away from the law entirely. I was able to create better boundaries for myself and focus my practice on an area I was passionate about, and through that I rediscovered my passion for the law. I am also neurodiverse, and I have generalized anxiety disorder, sensory processing disorder, and social anxiety, so sometimes facing each day can be a bit of a challenge. Being encouraged to work flexibly and take care of my mental and physical health and live authentically has really helped me find my joy in the law. And it's important to note that this is not just something that the firm can do, but something that we can all do for each other.